Erased Destiny 2, The Knower. Chapter 6, On One's Hand. Merigold, meanwhile, was racking her brains over how to fill out the complicated form. She didn't know how many days of vacation she was entitled to. She didn't know who was authorized to approve her application. Finally, she didn't know if, as a military judge, she could sign the application herself. She gave work fatigue as the reason marked 20 days, and Phineas, who was passing by, took her sheet.
So young and already tired?
As the person responsible for my tiredness, you could show some understanding.
I certainly would, but it won't work. The knowers get 10 days in a row at most.
He crossed out, underlined, filled in the missing data, and signed in the space provided for the approver.
Here you go. You, of all people, deserve a few days off.
What happens if I don't make it back in time?
They'll definitely cut your pay.
The conversation was interrupted by the appearance of a pale man in his 50s, with black hair pulled back into a ponytail. His black outfit and 2 short blades attached to his back made him look like a hitman. The emblem of the Crystal Palace embroidered on his shoulder calmed Phineas down a bit, but not Etien. Of all the meetings, she feared this one the most.
Greetings, Merigold, I presume. The Lady of the Crystal Palace sent me to protect you during your upcoming mission. Uzumayat, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Uzumayat, the most unpredictable vampire ever, the culprit of a holy judgment, the perpetrator of many interworld fights, and also the cause of the suns going out in the Eternal City. The person who knew Etien very well and will certainly share the news with all vampires as soon as he discovers the identity of the companion. And also with the half of the Crystal Palace residents. The only thing that made Etien happy in all the confusion was the silver 9 in the emblem. Not 11, 9. Uzumayat remained loyal to his favorite lady of the Crystal Palace, waited for her return, temporarily fulfilling Zuzu's will. If taking in Uzumayat did not mean returning to a world of the highest level problems, Etien would immediately reveal her identity to him.
Don't be afraid. I just look so scary. You have a strong aura of death. That's good, considering the circumstances.
He showed his slightly too long fangs with a smile. Etien remained silent. Any word she said could be a giveaway. She couldn't imagine working with Uzumayat without revealing information about herself. On the other hand, it was impossible to be bored in his company. She could rely on him, trust him with her life. It was hard to deny that his presence made the Teardam mission an adventure full of surprises. Etienne's mind quickly adjusted the expedition plan to the new team composition. With Umi's spells and Uzumayat's swords, Etien could opt for a more direct action, for a faster and more tasteful way of dealing with things, or open-armed conflict, if there was such a need.
Is the Lady of the Crystal Palace planning to send anyone else?
I don't think so, but I alone am like an entire armed unit.
The girl smiled broadly. The sending of the vampire turned out to be a hard-won agreement to participate in the venture. Zuzu gave in, because her refusal would only result in Uzumayat resigning from his position. Of the 2 evils, she preferred to at least have illusory power over the vampires, rather than violate the rules established by Etien.
Where exactly are you going to spend your vacation?
In Teardam. Don't worry if I don't come back for a long time. If anything bad happens, the palace would send a notification.
Tien turned and left the courthouse through the window. And behind her, the hyperactive vampire. She was glad that she had no more trials to attend and could fully concentrate on planning her trip to Teardam.
I'm wondering why Zuzu chose you. No offense. There is no shortage of death mages and scouts in the palace, and you have so little power.
In response, Etien stopped on the roof she had been running on. She touched Azumat's forehead and whispered the words that Narcissus had taught her, posthumously.
Nothing that is mine is yours. Everything that is yours will be mine.
Silver lines appeared on the vampire's forehead, undulating like the sea, sometimes forming mountain peaks, other times resembling houses packed along a narrow street. She cut off the connection of everyone listening to them, including Zuzu. Satisfied with the effect, she stepped back a little, surveying Uzumat from head to toe. Nothing had changed in 15 years. In fact, he was even wearing the same shoes. Taller than Merigold by a head, neck, and part of his chest, slim, dressed in black. Without a single bag. Whether the mission lasted an hour or several months, whether it took place in the desert or on a glacier, whether in summer or winter, Uzuma looked exactly the same. And he never took any equipment with him, not even money. 2 swords, that was all his luggage.
Maybe Zuzu saw something in me that you don't see?
Surely, I'd like to know. What is it? What skills do you have? What fighting style do you prefer?
Tien mentioned their training, wrestling on the grass. In all the battles they had participated in together, they had fought side by side, but separately. Uzuma was more interested in the number of enemies killed and the style in which the murders were committed than in anyone else's safety. Did he do it the fastest and most spectacularly of all the participants in the skirmish? He relished the fight, every variation of it, every opportunity to spill someone else's blood.
I didn't ask Zuzu for support. No offense. I prefer to act alone, possibly in the company of a charming shadow.
I feel we'll get along.
The vampire muttered, fading into a cloud of smoke. With death's control, Etien restored Uzumayat to his physical form. Her outstretched hand prevented the man from moving.
About my fighting style, we have met already, so I hope you didn't forget it. Tane. That was a name you gave me.
The vampire swept the laughing teenager into his arms. He danced with her on the roof of someone's house, to the amusement of the crowd below.
I almost feel sorry for you. The end of Uzumayat's diamond era. No challenges, no fights, not to mention the tournaments. Without me, your life has become boring, hasn't it?
I promise not to cause any trouble. There is no alternative to your company. I will return to the palace. With you. If you're even going there.
Not really.
Well, I'm also tired of seeing the same walls every day. You're back, and that's the best news I've had in the last 15 years. It is with genuine joy that I put myself at your service.
The apartment door, which had been pried open with a crowbar, was not the sight Etien had been expecting. The same applied to the scattered belongings she had just tidied up. The furniture, damaged by Zuzu's plants, remained in place, but many of the items sent for the mission had disappeared. Etien touched Uzumayat's forehead.
Will you be done by morning? Recover the stolen goods. Oh, I almost forgot. Anti-teleportation. I hope you didn't tell Sanja where you were going.
The vampire smiled and denied it. He, too, longed for a moment's respite from his possessive partner.
What about the bodies?
Bury them, dump them in the river, or whatever suits you. Once we've dealt with Teardom, I'll look for a new place to live. Sintra is the worst place I've ever lived in. That includes the swamps near the palace and Narcissus's camp. But before you go, brief me about the global situation.
V. Etien and Lucas didn't break the contracts with us, so it is rather calm at the moment. Zuzu maintains some kind of relationship with Felonard, but I wouldn't call it a friendship. About the internal affairs, I'm afraid we are returning to 8's policy of isolation. Zuzu requires all adepts and candidates to pass an exam on languages fluency. Scholarship is only for those who can prove their origins. There are fewer outsiders in the palace with every passing year.
Etien didn't show that the revelations made her worried. Everything what she had achieved was slowly dissolving. The better future, her vision that she was protecting with her life. Why did Zuzu isolate the palace? Out of fear. She had more power than the 8th Lord. She didn't need to be afraid of anything.
Did you see Nathan?
No, there is no track of him anywhere. Luna was looking for you most of the time, but rest of the mages and scouts gave up long ago. I was waiting for a message from you, as I am not good at tracking, and even worse at mind magic. Have you met Felonard yet?
No, although I plan to do it soon. Mainly because of Gabriella. As you notice, I do not have enough power to seize the throne now, but I hope that vampires can do something about it. I am really happy to see you. With you on my side, I may start planning something bigger than one trip to Tyrdom. If you stay by my side, that's it.
Of course I stay with you. You can count on me, whatever you plan.
Vampire left to look for items stolen from Etienne's apartment, and the former ruler herself started to doubt her mission. Should she really help Zuzu, who was getting against her mother's policy? In the morning, Etien left Sintra in her dark blue outfit, and Uzuma followed her like a shadow.
We will visit the man who comes from Tyrdom. He will tell us the best way to get to the city.
Wouldn't it be better to take him with us?
He is good for nothing except his knowledge about the city itself. An old merchant.
Etien opened the gate, separating the merchant's manor from Wolf's Roam with poison ivy. She pulled especially hard, so that the jingle of metal would announce her arrival to all the household members. On the back of her ghostly steed, she rode right up to the front door. Completely unconcerned about the damage her magical steeds would cause, she let them loose. Uzuma opened the door, letting his companion go first. He slipped in unnoticed right behind her, like the shadow she had longed for. The simplest mind spell was enough for Etien to locate Cyril in his office, and that was where she intended to go, but she was forestalled by Joanna.
What nerve! Some people have no shame. Forcibly entering someone's house with some thug.
The thug laughed and pushed the servants, blocking the passage with his swords. Merigold regretted not having used the window. On the other hand, Joanna's helpless rage immediately improved her mood. The guests were slowly moving towards the stairs, and Joanna was retreating deeper into the hallway.
Leave my house immediately.
I didn't come to you, woman, so be quiet and get out of my sight.
Joanna disappeared behind the bedroom door. Her screams alerted Cyril, who came out to meet Merigold with his sword in his hand. The sight of a man wearing the coat of arms of the Crystal Palace pushing through the service, trying to stop him, made the merchant's heart skip a few beats.
Please let them through. I apologize for any inconvenience.
He invited his guests into the study, and as soon as the door closed behind them, he slowly exhaled. Uzuma took a seat in the guest chair without being asked. He filled the entire room with his presence, even though he only physically took up one of the room's many pieces of furniture. Etien leaned her back against the door so that no one would disturb them during their conversation. She also set up a quiet zone in case she had to convince Cyril to cooperate. Cyril was watching the black-clad visitor. It had not escaped his attention that the man had been looking at Merigold the whole time, as if he was watching over her, maybe protecting her. He walked right in front of her, pushing away anyone who might touch the girl. The closer Cyril got to Merigold, the denser the atmosphere around him became. So he sat down behind the desk, put the food tray aside, and asked,
"What brings the envoy of the Crystal Palace to us?"
I heard that you were born in Tyrdom. Is that true?
Without saying a word, he agreed with Etien that he would discuss the matter with Cyril, especially since Cyril had only addressed him, ignoring Merigold.
"That's true. But I haven't been there in 10 years. These days, no one goes there if they have a choice. Anarchy, military rule, growing conflict between the two parts of the city. Tyrdom is basically a fortress, not a city."
Do you have a current map?
Cyril looked meaningfully at the empty shelves behind him.
"I did, but a recent fire destroyed most of the books I had. Have you checked the town library? I'm sorry, I can't help."
But that's completely unnecessary, because we are taking you as our guide. Of course, the Crystal Palace will compensate you for the time you have lost and will cover all expenses related to your travel and stay in Tyrdom.
Uzumat showed Cyril the order signed by Zuzu, got up and nodded to Merigold.
Please be ready at 1 p.m. See you later.
The two unusual visitors had disappeared through the door of the office, and Cyril rested his head on his hands. He looked at the clock, then at the empty shelves again, and got up. Jargon was not in his room. Joanna was nowhere to be found. So he wrote a short letter explaining the situation, left it on his desk, and took a worn-out bag from the chest. To himself, he pretended it was nothing, a trip like any other, maybe even more profitable. Etien directed the steed to Tolpe's house. She decided that they would need one tracker and did not intend to involve Sonja, the leader of the Seekers who wielded mind magic. She found Lena outside. This time, she was weeding the garden.
Good morning. Is Tolpez home?
Good morning, Goldie. I am glad to see you. He went to Sintra. Anything to tell him?
Lena got up from her knees, and Merigold saw she was pregnant.
No need. We were passing by and thought we'd stop by. Being a knower doesn't leave much time for walks in the forest, unfortunately.
I've heard it's a very thankless job. Would you like something to drink? Or are you hungry?
No, thank you. We just had breakfast.
Nico ran out of the house in shorts. Merigold noticed that Lena's outfit was also showing signs of wear and tear.
We haven't had many jobs recently, and nobody buys furs in the summer. Have you heard of any vacancies? Just for a few days to earn some extra money?
If you wouldn't mind being alone, I have a job for Tolpez. It's not to his taste, but it pays well. Escorting.
Really? Great. You're a savior. Of course, we'll take the job.
Merigold thought that their financial situation must be really precarious if Lena had agreed to her husband's trip with such enthusiasm.
We're leaving Wolf's Room at 1 p.m. See you later, Lena.
On her way to Sintra, Merigold wondered if they should take anyone else with them. She thought of Torden, Pillars, and Jargon. The warrior, despite his old age, had retained his fitness and mental acuity and could be useful in the event of a clash with the Tyrdom's guards. Pillars had decent power, more than Hume, and a richer arsenal of spells. He had taken part in tournaments in the past, so he had no shortage of battle experience. And Jargon? He would have completed their arsenal with ice spells. Merigold didn't want to admit it, but she didn't feel comfortable in the company of much older people. With Jargon, she could at least talk calmly in the breaks between the activities coordinated by Etien. In response to the girl's thoughts, Etien showed her the missions she had been on with the Seekers. Neither Torden, pillars, nor jargon were a good match for her fighting style.